Michael was a whirlwind of impatience. He zipped through life, convinced the world revolved around his schedule. He tapped his fingers impatiently on any surface, sighed dramatically when forced to wait, and generally acted as if everyone else was moving in slow motion. This was especially true when it came to older people. In his mind, they were just slower. Less important. He worked at a fancy office downtown. He always wore a suit and tie, even though his job wasn't that important. He thought it made him look important. He was always rushing to meetings, or pretending to be rushing to meetings. He wanted everyone to think he was a big shot. Michael believed he was smarter, faster, and better than most people. He cut people off in line, argued with waiters, and generally acted like the world was his personal playground. He never stopped to think about how his actions affected others. He just cared about getting what he wanted, when he wanted it. He wasn't a bad person, not really, just very, very self-centered. He had a lot to learn. He thought respect was earned, not given, and he didn't think old people had earned it. Today was no different. Michael was already 10 minutes late for a meeting he'd completely forgotten about until his phone buzzed insistently in his pocket. He cursed under his breath and weaved his shiny red sports car through the morning traffic like a needle through cloth. He zipped past a minivan full of kids, earning a frustrated honk from the driver, but Michael just grinned and sped up. He tailgated a delivery truck, flashing his headlights impatiently. The truck driver, clearly annoyed, gave him a rude gesture in the rearview mirror. Michael just laughed and swerved around him, cutting him off sharply. He sped through a yellow light, narrowly missing a cyclist who swerved to avoid him. The cyclist yelled, but Michael was already too far ahead to hear. He justified his reckless driving to himself, everyone else was just too slow. He had important things to do, people to see. He was, after all, a very busy and important person, or at least that's what he liked to think. He needed to be at that meeting, even if it was just to look important. The thrill of speeding made him feel alive, even if it put others in danger. He thought he was in control, but really, he was just being reckless. Suddenly, traffic ground to a halt. Michael groaned, banging his fist on the steering wheel. Seriously, he muttered. He craned his neck, trying to see what was causing the delay. Up ahead, he saw a crosswalk. An elderly man was slowly making his way across the street, using a cane for support. It was Mr. Thompson. He was dressed in simple clothes and moved with a deliberate slowness that seemed to infuriate Michael. Michael leaned on his horn, the loud blast echoing through the street. "Come on, Grandpa! Move it," he yelled, rolling down his window. Other drivers shot him disapproving glances, but Michael didn't care. He was too impatient to wait. "Are you trying to break a record for slowest walker ever?" he shouted, laughing. He found it hilarious. He made loud hurry-up noises and waved his hands in a mocking gesture. "Maybe you should try crawling. You'd probably be faster," he added, his laughter growing louder. He glanced around, expecting others to join in his amusement, but instead, he was met with glares and disapproving shakes of heads. Still, he couldn't resist one last, loud guffaw as the old man finally reached the other side. He thought he was so funny. He wasn't. Mr. Thompson, despite Michael's cruel words, didn't react with anger. He simply paused, turning his head slightly towards the sound of Michael's voice. He wore a faded baseball cap with the words Vietnam veteran stitched across the front, a subtle testament to his service. He had seen much worse than a rude young man in a sports car. He looked directly at Michael, his eyes filled with a quiet understanding. There was no anger, no resentment, only a gentle sadness. He offered Michael a small, almost imperceptible smile, a gesture of forgiveness and perhaps a hint of pity. It was as if he knew something Michael didn't. Then, slowly and deliberately, he continued his journey across the street, his cane tapping rhythmically against the pavement. He walked with a slight limp, a reminder of battles fought and sacrifices made. He didn't quicken his pace, didn't offer any retort, just continued on his way with dignity and grace. The smile lingered for a moment, a silent rebuke to Michael's outburst. He disappeared into the crowd on the other side, leaving Michael feeling strangely uneasy. The traffic started to move again. Michael, still fuming slightly, put his car in gear and sped off as soon as the traffic started moving. He tried to shake off the feeling of unease that Mr. Thompson's smile had left him with, but it lingered in the back of his mind. He told himself he had done nothing wrong, the old man was just slow. He continued to drive too fast, weaving in and out of lanes, his frustration building with each passing minute. He checked his rearview mirror, still seeing the image of Mr. Thompson's face, a face that held no malice, only a strange sort of knowing. Just 7 minutes later, as he rounded a sharp bend in the road, disaster struck. A delivery van pulled out suddenly from a side street, directly into his path. Michael slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. The screech of tires filled the air, followed by a deafening crash. Metal crunched, glass shattered, and the world turned upside down. Michael's car spun violently before coming to a mangled stop against a lamppost, smoke billowing from the engine. He was trapped. And the car was starting to burn. Dazed and disoriented, Michael struggled against his seatbelt. Pain shot through his leg as he tried to move. The steering wheel was pressing against his chest, making it hard to breathe. Panic began to set in. He tugged frantically at the seatbelt, but it wouldn't release. Outside, people were stopping, their faces a mixture of shock and concern. He could hear voices, but they seemed distant and muffled. He yelled for help, but his voice was weak and raspy. The smoke was getting thicker, stinging his eyes and making him cough. He could smell gasoline. Flames flickered under the hood, growing larger with each passing second. He knew he had to get out, but he was trapped. He tried kicking at the windshield, but it wouldn't break. Fear gripped him like a vice. He was going to die. People stood frozen, watching the unfolding tragedy. They pulled out their phones, filming the scene. Some whispered nervously, afraid the car would explode. No one dared to approach the burning vehicle. The heat was intense, and the flames were spreading rapidly. They were scared. They didn't know what to do. They just watched and waited. But then, a figure emerged from the crowd, moving purposefully towards the burning car. It was Mr. Thompson. He had been a block away when he heard the crash and saw the smoke rising. Without hesitation, he started running, his cane forgotten on the sidewalk. He pushed his way through the onlookers, ignoring their warnings. "Get back! It's going to blow," someone shouted. But Mr. Thompson didn't stop. He had seen too much death and destruction in his life to stand by and watch someone die, especially not when he could do something to help. His military training kicked in. He assessed the situation quickly, his mind clear and focused. He remembered the drills, the procedures, the importance of staying calm under pressure. He knew he didn't have much time. He reached the car, the heat searing his face. He could hear Michael's desperate cries for help. Ignoring the flames licking at the car's exterior, he began to search for a way to get him out. He was an old man, but his resolve was stronger than ever. He wouldn't let this young man die. Not if he could help it. The car door was crumpled and jammed shut. Mr. Thompson tried the handle, but it wouldn't budge. He needed leverage. He spotted a heavy piece of metal debris from the crash lying nearby. Gritting his teeth, he lifted it, ignoring the sharp pain in his shoulder. He wedged the metal bar into the gap between the door and the car frame. He pushed with all his might, his muscles straining. The metal groaned and screeched, but the door remained stuck. He tried again, putting all his weight into it. Finally, with a loud crack, the door sprang open a few inches. It wasn't much, but it was enough. He threw the metal bar aside and grabbed the edge of the door, pulling with all his strength. The twisted metal cut into his hands, but he didn't flinch. He had to get Michael out. The flames were getting closer, and he could hear the whoosh of the fire intensifying. Time was running out. He knew that if he didn't act fast, it would be too late. He pulled again, harder this time. The door creaked open a little further. Just a little more. With a final, desperate heave, the door swung open wide enough for him to reach inside. The heat was intense, almost unbearable. He could see Michael slumped in the driver's seat, his face pale and covered in soot. "Hang on, son. I'm going to get you out of here," Mr. Thompson shouted, his voice hoarse. He reached inside, fumbling for Michael's seatbelt. The buckle was jammed. He tried to release it, but it wouldn't budge. Remembering his training, he quickly felt around for the release mechanism. It was hidden beneath a layer of twisted metal. He used his fingers to pry away the metal, his hands burning from the heat. Finally, he found it. With a click, the seatbelt released. He reached under Michael's arms and pulled him towards the open door. Michael was limp and unresponsive. Mr. Thompson struggled to lift him, his own strength failing him. "Help me! Someone, please help me," he yelled, his voice cracking with desperation. The flames were now licking at the roof of the car. Any second, it could explode. He had to get Michael out. Now. Finally, two men from the crowd, spurred by Mr. Thompson's bravery and desperate plea, rushed forward to help. Together, they managed to pull Michael free from the wreckage. They dragged him away from the burning car, just as a series of small explosions erupted from under the hood. They laid Michael gently on the ground, a safe distance from the inferno. Mr. Thompson collapsed beside him, gasping for breath. His face was blackened with soot, his hands were bleeding, and his clothes were singed, but he was alive. And so was Michael. The heat was intense. The flames roared, consuming the car in a fiery embrace. The onlookers gasped and recoiled, feeling the wave of heat wash over them. They watched in awe and horror as the car was reduced to a twisted, smoldering wreck. Mr. Thompson looked at Michael, his eyes filled with concern. "Are you all right, son?" he asked, his voice weak but steady. Michael was still unconscious, but he was breathing. Mr. Thompson had done it. He had saved him. His bravery had inspired others to act, and together they had cheated death. He closed his eyes, exhausted but relieved. He wouldn't have had it any other way. As Michael slowly regained consciousness, his head throbbed with pain. He coughed, his lungs burning from the smoke. He looked around, confused and disoriented. He saw the charred remains of his car, still smoldering in the distance. He remembered the crash, the flames, the feeling of being trapped. Then, he saw Mr. Thompson, sitting nearby, his face etched with concern. And that's when it hit him. This was the same old man he had mocked just minutes before. The shame washed over him like a tidal wave. Tears welled up in his eyes. He had been so cruel, so disrespectful. And now, this same man had risked his life to save him. He couldn't believe it. He felt like the worst person in the world. He tried to sit up, but pain shot through his leg. He winced and lay back down. He looked at Mr. Thompson, his eyes pleading for forgiveness. How could he ever make amends for his terrible behavior? He didn't deserve to be saved by this man. He deserved whatever had happened to him. The guilt was overwhelming. He finally understood how wrong he had been. Paramedics arrived, their sirens piercing the air. They rushed to Michael's side, carefully checking his injuries. They placed him on a stretcher and prepared to transport him to the hospital. As they lifted him, Michael reached out and grabbed Mr. Thompson's hand, his grip surprisingly strong. I'm so sorry," he stammered, his voice choked with emotion. "I was so rude to you. You saved my life. I don't deserve it." Tears streamed down his face as he spoke. He was truly ashamed of his past behavior. He had been so focused on himself, so blinded by his own arrogance, that he had failed to see the humanity in others. Now, he understood. He squeezed Mr. Thompson's hand tightly. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Thank you for everything." The paramedics loaded him into the ambulance and closed the doors. As the ambulance sped away, Michael couldn't take his eyes off Mr. Thompson, who stood watching, his face a mixture of weariness and compassion. Michael knew he would never forget this day. It was the day he learned the true meaning of respect and humility. Mr. Thompson watched the ambulance disappear down the road, a faint smile playing on his lips. He was tired and sore, but he felt a sense of peace. He knew Michael had a long road ahead of him, both physically and emotionally, but he believed the young man would be okay. A police officer approached him, his face filled with admiration. "You're a hero, sir," he said, shaking Mr. Thompson's hand. "You saved that young man's life. You risked your own life for a stranger." Mr. Thompson shrugged. "He wasn't a stranger," he replied quietly. "He was just a young man who made a mistake. We all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them." He paused, looking thoughtful. Besides, he added with a twinkle in his eye, he needed a little help. "And I happened to be there." The officer smiled. "Well, you're a better man than I am, sir," he said. "Most people wouldn't have done what you did, especially after the way he treated you." Mr. Thompson simply shook his head. "It's never too late to do the right thing," he said. "And sometimes, the people who need our help the most are the ones who least deserve it." He paused. "It's about doing the right thing, not about deserving it." In the hospital, Michael had plenty of time to reflect on his actions. He replayed the events of the day over and over in his mind, each time feeling a fresh wave of shame and regret. He thought about Mr. Thompson's kind smile, his selfless bravery, and his words of forgiveness. He realized that he had been living his life all wrong. He had been so focused on himself, so driven by his own ego, that he had completely lost sight of what was truly important. He had treated others with disrespect and arrogance, believing that he was somehow better than them. Now, he saw the error of his ways. He understood that true strength wasn't about being fast or smart or successful. It was about being kind, compassionate, and humble. It was about helping others, even when they didn't deserve it. He knew he had a long way to go to become the person he wanted to be, but he was determined to change. He vowed to be more patient, more respectful, and more considerate of others. He would start by finding Mr. Thompson and thanking him properly. He owed him everything. He needed to show him that he had learned his lesson. He hoped it wasn't too late. A few days later, Michael, still using crutches, was discharged from the hospital. The first thing he did was track down Mr. Thompson. He found his address in the phone book and nervously drove to his small, modest home. He took a deep breath and hobbled up to the front door, his heart pounding in his chest. He rang the doorbell, and after a moment, Mr. Thompson answered, his face lighting up with a warm smile when he saw Michael. "Michael! It's good to see you up and about," Mr. Thompson said, ushering him inside. Come in, come in. How are you feeling?" Michael hesitated, overwhelmed with emotion. "Mr. Thompson," he began, his voice trembling, "I don't know how to thank you. You saved my life. And I was so awful to you. I'm so sorry." Mr. Thompson placed a hand on Michael's shoulder, his eyes filled with kindness. "Forget about it, son," he said gently. "What's done is done. The important thing is that you're here now, and you're okay." They spent the afternoon talking, sharing stories, and getting to know each other. Michael learned about Mr. Thompson's military service, his love for his family, and his unwavering belief in the goodness of people. Mr. Thompson learned about Michael's ambitions, his insecurities, and his newfound appreciation for life. An unlikely friendship began to blossom. Michael became a regular visitor at Mr. Thompson's house. He would often stop by after work, bringing groceries or helping with chores. He listened intently to Mr. Thompson's stories about his time in the military, his adventures around the world, and his life lessons learned along the way. Inspired by Mr. Thompson's service, Michael decided to volunteer at the local veterans center. He helped with various tasks, from serving meals to organizing events. He spent time talking to the veterans, listening to their stories, and offering them companionship. He discovered a deep respect for their sacrifices and their resilience. He realized that these were the people who had protected his freedom and defended his country. He was humbled by their experiences and grateful for their service. He also learned the importance of patience and understanding. He realized that everyone has their own struggles and their own challenges. He began to see the world through different eyes, with more empathy and compassion. He realized that true success wasn't about money or status, but about making a positive difference in the lives of others. He discovered the joy of giving back and the satisfaction of helping those in need. He was finally becoming the person he always should have been. Years passed. Michael continued to volunteer at the Veterans Center, becoming a beloved figure among the residents. He organized events, raised funds, and spent countless hours listening to their stories. He always made sure to treat every veteran with the utmost respect and gratitude. He also remained close friends with Mr. Thompson, visiting him regularly and considering him a mentor and a father figure. He learned so much from Mr. Thompson about life, love, and the importance of giving back. Whenever he saw an elderly person struggling, he would always offer his assistance, remembering the day he had mocked Mr. Thompson for walking too slowly. He never forgot the lessons he had learned that day, the lessons that had changed his life forever. He finally understood that judging people based on their age, their appearance, or their background was wrong. He realized that everyone deserves to be treated with kindness and respect. He learned that true happiness comes not from what you have, but from what you give. And so, Michael lived his life with purpose and intention, always striving to be a better person, always remembering the day Mr. Thompson saved his life. He knew that he could never fully repay Mr. Thompson for his selfless act, but he could honor him by living a life of kindness, compassion, and gratitude. He never forgot that kindness matters most.